And we are recording. All right, now it is official. So welcome everyone. This is our third installment of our clinician speaker event for the Cinematic Arts Department. Today, I am delighted to bring to you a working actor in Hollywood. He's been doing this for quite some time. It's Miss Sharon Blynn. We met. Was it about, God, it was about 12 years ago, wasn't it? Something like that.
7.
Oh, was it 7? Oh, okay.
That's what the photo said. It was 2015.
Okay.
So actually 9 years ago.
Okay. All right. I thought it was earlier than that, but anyway, it was at an event in Los Angeles it was a documentary film about, I think it was called "You're Not Your Hair." Was that the documentary?
You Are Not Your Hair.
Right. And it was about, the importance that's placed on hair in popular culture. And there was a head shaving event involved with that. And as you can see here, I participated in that. And you see these luscious locks up here right now, went from this to that. And that is Sharon and I right here. This was, like I said, it was 2015. Yeah, there you go. Oh, God, it's crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bio for Sharon, and then she's going to take over and do her presentation. So Sharon Blynn is an actorvist, a writer, filmmaker, and founder of Bald is Beautiful, an ovarian cancer awareness organization dedicated to empowering women and girls to define their beauty and wholeness on their own terms. She has appeared on TV and in films and performed on stages in New York and Los Angeles, as well as sharing her Bald is Beautiful message all over the world. Most recently, Sharon played the role of Skrull alien Soren, wife to Ben Mendelsohn's Talos in Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man Far From Home from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Red Wizard Dimitra Flass in Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Also appeared on TV's This Is Us on NBC, The Detour on TBS, Body of Proof ABC, Shameless on Showtime, Sex in the City on HBO, and Lie to Me on Fox. And she hosted the PBS documentary The Whisper, The Silent Crisis of Ovarian Cancer, and the Revlon Pink Pony Foundation Let's Talk About Cancer podcast. Sharon's recent honors include receiving the Braveheart Woman's Courage Award and the Lily Tartikoff EIF Hope Award, and being named a Revlon Role Model and Lifetime TV Remarkable Woman, among others. So Sharon is over the moon excited to be here with all of you this afternoon. So it's my great pleasure to present to you Miss Sharon Blynn.
Woohoo! Hello. There we go. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. There's some kind of, I don't know what's going on the screen, or on your end, there's a menu, the pull down menu going on over there. Or is that me? No, that's you. Okay.
Yeah, let me get rid of that. Okay. Are you good?
Yes, I think okay. I'm seeing what you're seeing.
All right.
Hello, everyone. So thank you for that wonderful introduction, David. Professor, Doctor, Doctor. So as you saw from the slide that was up there on the screen, the 3 pillars that I try to move from within in life and in my career as well are passion, vision, and purpose. So just to go back in time a little, I actually was doing this unconsciously, but it was just seemed to be a natural inclination for me to learn to follow my passion. So in college, I actually changed my major 3 times in 4 years. And the one I ended up going with was, I had the option, thankfully, I went to Barnard College, Columbia University, and I could design my major. And I could put together my own curriculum. And my passion was music and anthropology. So ultimately, I designed my major in ethnomusicology. And that was my passion. So by my 3rd year in college, I had already done all the prerequisite courses. I had already fulfilled all those things. And the only thing I was taking then for the last 2 years of school were courses that were specifically in my area of of passion of music and anthropology, specifically African and Caribbean music. So from a very young age, I was already sort of putting together the idea of, I really feel it's important to what I am passionate about and what I'm very interested in is something that I should pour myself into. And college is a wonderful opportunity, as you all know, and as you all have, to do that for yourselves, is to spend your job in life right now is to dive into your passions and study and learn and absorb all this knowledge and experience. So it's an awesome time. And then I parlayed that into my dream at the time was to have my own record label. I wanted to do artist development and bring amazing art and artists to the world. And so I just kind of wanted to learn everything I could about the music business. I started interning during college. I interned at Blue Note Records and was out in the clubs, jazz clubs. I was in the jazz mecca of the world, New York City. So I was doing classes and also out in the clubs till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Oops. I made sure to schedule my classes that didn't start before like 10 or 11 a.m. But I met a lot of people on the scene, obviously musicians and also people in the industry. And then through my internships and connections, eventually started working in the music business at Verve Records, the other major jazz label that I grew up listening to on vinyl and on the radio. So after 6 years in the music business, that was my vision and my purpose. So this is the manifestation of all the passion, vision, and purpose in my music business career was I love music, specifically jazz. I was in New York City, and I just started carving my path towards doing that and working at a record company, engaging with artists that I had just only listened to on vinyl or on the radio or on CDs then at the time. Now I'm actually working with them and their teams and helping them build visibility and going to recording session became what we call a studio rat. I just loved hanging out in the studio till all hours, just watching these records being made and being part of that whole process. And then bringing these great artists to a wider community of people who can discover, if they don't already know jazz, to learn about jazz and just learn these artists and enjoy it. So that was probably some of the most incredible, like the first decade of my time in New York City was dedicated to school and then manifesting these dream come true, meeting and working with my heroes, Bruce Lundvall at Blue Note Records and then everyone at Verve Records. So then life happens too. And sometimes the vision might change. So at 28, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And I'd already actually left the music business because I love music too much to work for a record company. And then life happened with this ovarian cancer diagnosis. And as I moved along that journey, that also inspired another vision to come into my life of an idea that I had, and which became Bald is Beautiful. And that started with just going through this experience of cancer. I was a young woman. I had long hair, which I actually don't even have a picture of that right now to show you. But I had really long hair, and that was my trademark. That was like my hippie jazz chick, hair. And now I'm going to be without that hair. And that was my whole life had long hair, and it was my thing. And suddenly, who am I without my hair? This sense of identity was, questioned now. And that was the beginning of this new internal journey of finding myself and finding my voice and going on a whole other path that I could never have anticipated. And yes, it was terrifying and intense, but also so much richness and beauty and discovery, self-discovery came from it. And that was also the beginning of, not the beginning, but another way of taking what is challenging and possibly, could be life ending. Became life affirming and life altering, mining things that are challenging and bringing out the things that are positive of it, and capitalizing on what can actually create growth and expansion and deepening, rather than having something tear you down. So I began this journey. Began with a little spark. I'm going to share my screen and show some photos that will help take you on this journey with me. So you already saw this photo. Hi, David, again. So this Polaroid, this is going to sound weird, but like a guy on the street stopped me and said, "I'm a photographer and I'm working on this project for bald women." And it's kind of like, okay, yes. And this is one of my first experiences taking a photo that was like, okay, I have no hair and I feel like I'm losing all this. I'm losing my ovaries and my hair and, all this, possibly losing my life, but I'm having so much fun. And this beautiful photo is coming out of this treacherous experience. So the juxtaposition between those two things was like, it stuck with me. And also one of the other things was like cutting my hair. I decided, okay, this thing is happening. It's scary. So I'm going to have fun. My sister went and got the woman who's been cutting my hair, trimming my split ends since I was 5 years old. Never let her cut more than like an inch. She came to my parents' house. I was too sick to go to the salon, and she started cutting my hair in their living room, looking out on the water down in Miami, Florida. I was visiting them for a week, and that became a 3-year trip. So we did this. She made a haircut house call, and we started doing this whole, and everyone then a week later, it really started coming out. Everyone took turns shaving my head. So again, you see these very joyful photos, and looking back on it, I can look back on this experience and like, I know I was really scared and there was so much heaviness going on, but I look back at these pictures and see how much joy and community and friendship and love was going on. That's my twin sister and my brother. I'm talking on the phone. My boyfriend at the time lived in London. He lived overseas. So I was, I was just having a blast, losing my hair. And then we took some fun photos just for kicks. I got some henna tattoos of the Ohm symbols. My parents had some friends had some party that had a henna artist there the night before, so I had those on already. And then this happened, which was the play Wit was happening at a theater in Miami, and they wanted to talk to real cancer patients about the ovarian cancer journey because the play is about a woman with ovarian cancer. And I jokingly said, I want to shave the actor's head who's playing the main actor. And they were like, oh, what a great idea. And they sent me to meet her, and we had a whole beautiful day. And this photo, this main photo here that you see, that ended up, as you can see, on the cover of the Arts and Leisure, the Living Arts section of the Miami Herald. Nobody knew that it was going to be that big thing. They sent a reporter and interviewed me and this other woman, also named Sharon. Barbara Sloan is the actor. And my parents just started getting these phone calls out of the blue, like, oh, I didn't know your daughter was going through cancer. And that's such an amazing photo. And there's so much joy. Or another person called and said, oh, I love that photo so much. My aunt is going through cancer and that photo is so joyful. I'm going to send it to her and it's going to make her feel good. And that was like the spark right there. The power of image to shift and expand and change our perception of things. And instead of people hearing about cancer and thinking doom and gloom, which yes, it has a lot of that, but they can see this and feel this instead. And I was like, okay, when I finish with this cancer thing, I'm going to do Bald is Beautiful. So then the vision, the purpose started flowing in, and it was almost like, I can't wait to finish with this cancer thing because I got to do this. And so that this moment here was the beginning, and I was still going through treatment, and I had two more years and a bunch of surgeries and lots of chemo and stuff still to go through it. But I was just like, let me get through this so I can do this thing. And I didn't know how to start either. My sister's an actor, but I had never done it. I was always very behind the scenes, but I knew, okay, I'll just get some photos done and I'll slap a mission statement on the back of these things and just start pounding the pavement in New York City. And just started doing things, just experimenting with different photographers and taking different photos, really wacky, like, piece of plexiglass with water sprayed on it, like, I don't know. I've never done any of that stuff before, but it was just, I was having so much fun and flipping the script on this experience that could be very devastating for a lot of people. And that's also what we heard, when I was with the doctors. It's sort of like, I met a lot of women who had a harder time losing hair than the fact that they had cancer. And that just did not sit well with me. It just felt out of whack and out of balance. And I really wanted to do something to shift that and put other messages out there. Everything I saw, and this is the genesis of becoming what I call an actorvist, because the Bald is Beautiful became the fuel behind everything I do and have done as a model and an actor, is that everything I saw on TV and film made me feel worse about myself. And also I was 28 and everything made me feel I'm too young for this shit feeling. So I just felt like there just has to be other images. And when that newspaper article had that effect, I realized, that's what I need to do, is start putting an image out there in a different way that makes people feel a societal hug, instead of being told like, you're not pretty without your hair, or you're incomplete, or you're not a whole woman without your ovaries or your breasts or reproductive organs, that I was hearing and receiving from a lot of women going through this. And even the literature they give you in the hospital, they talk about it in these like dire terms of losing your hair can be the most devastating experience. And I was just like, why are they, I'm feeling it already. Why are they telling me that? And everything around me is already telling me that. Why aren't they giving me other messages? So I just thought, I need to do something about this. And that's when I started just taking photos, and I got to do all these fun photo shoots that were like just wacky and weird. And I had never done anything like this stuff before. And I was having a blast. And that's so my vision and purpose came through as an actorvist. And I got to do some cool magazine articles where, again, using the platform of the image plus articulating and talking about ovarian cancer, which not a lot of people talk about, but also the ideas of we can define our own experience of things. We define our beauty for ourselves on our own term and our wholeness. And that goes for men too. It's just that I'm a woman and I went through ovarian cancer. So that's this experience that I speak through. But the message really applies to everyone, is how we define ourselves on our own terms in sickness and in health. And I got to use modeling and the visual media to then have these platforms to be in magazines and talk about these things. This photo, I'll just say a quick story, offshoot story. This photo right here, and I put things out on the interwebs, which is like another foreign. I'm an analog girl in a digital world, but I started a website just to put things out there, get things out there. And I would get emails from people all over the world who would see this thing. This is for Mary Claire Italia. And this image, I got an email from a woman in Italy who she wrote to me, and she said she saw this photo and she posted it up on the doorway in her apartment, so that every time before she leaves her house, she would see me smiling at her and saying, "Go get him, kid." And again, it just cemented I'm on the right path, because I just kept getting these affirmations of, I don't know who I'm going to reach. I don't know how many people I'm going to reach. But putting it out there is going to do something somewhere, somehow. And even if just one person is positively impacted by it, then I've done my job. And then, Lisa, can I have some more? I'm going to keep going. And that's what I've been doing. Here's some other fashion photos that I got to do, a campaign for this amazing clothing line. It was all really organic and cool stuff. And then I started getting some actual articles in magazines about Bald is Beautiful, not just through the acting and modeling stuff, some press. And that was, again, the goal of being able to articulate this message and put the image out there, smiling, beautiful, like people would tell me. I didn't think that I can't believe that I'm thinking about joy and love and beauty when because I have this cancer diagnosis hanging over me. And that's what the power of these images to change perception of ourselves and the cancer journey can do. So I kept going. So one of my favorite moments was I was on Sex and the City. I was on 2 episodes. Then the first one I was in, I was pretentious, artsy woman. And I met the director, I met the showrunner on the set, and I told him about Bald is Beautiful and what I want to do with Bald is Beautiful. And I said, I feel like there's a way to bring cancer storyline into Sex and the City. And he said, we're already working on it. I can't say anything, but stay in touch with casting. And when I guess they were casting this episode, they had my information. They reached out to me and they wanted to have real cancer patients in this pivotal scene that I'm not sure who there has seen Sex and the City or this episode, but the character Samantha has breast cancer, and she's speaking at this gala, and she's wearing this fancy thing, and she's wearing this wig, and it's hot and itchy and terrible. And she just like takes her wig off, because it's like, fuck it. And then a bunch of us stand up and take off our wigs and applauded her in solidarity. And it was this whole moment of embrace. And it turns out, by the way, before we shot this thing, this woman in the middle here, she had just been diagnosed with cancer at the time, and they were dedicating this episode and this moment to her. So the emotions in the room were beautiful. And all of these women, there's some women with alopecia. This is Margaret and Venus. Everyone else are cancer patients who, most of whom had never gone out in public without a wig on. So my idea with this and what I pitched to them to get them join me for this experience was to have a once in a lifetime experience being on a television show, and none of them are actors, being on a set with Kim Cattrall and other people, and associating being bald with this extraordinary, unique, once in a lifetime experience. And they had so much fun. And this woman, she wanted to be in the photo, but she had her wig on, and she was like, "Can I still be in the photo with my wig on?" I was like, "Of course, get over here." And just before he took the photo, she took her wig off. And then, I sent this to everyone. So everyone has this photo now to remember this experience. And again, the fuel behind everything I'm doing is like, I'm bringing the visual media and this experience to people's lives so that they can have a balance of so when they think about being bald or think about having cancer, it's not just all like, I'm on the edge of knocking on heaven's doors. There can be joy and fun as well. And Kim Cattrall was an exquisite person. She was beautiful to work with on the set. And then this is like 4 years later, I got to be part of this. This is Bristol Myers Squibb. They are the company that made the part of my chemo cocktail, Taxol. And I auditioned for this campaign. And when I went in, all they did was ask about our stories. The first audition was just, tell us about your journey. I told them about ovarian cancer, and I told them about Bald is Beautiful. And I got a call back. And in the second callback, we all had scripts, unique scripts for each of us, the 4 of us that were there. And I'm reading this script, and the script says, "Bald is Beautiful," like my words about my journey are on the page, like, okay. And it was so moving to me that an ad company, which is usually designed to like tell you what's wrong with yourself so you can buy their product and make yourself feel good, they were not doing that. It was a completely positive and empowering campaign. And here are my words on the page. And I even said, and you're not supposed to say this kind of stuff in auditions, I suppose, but I even thanked them. I said, even if I don't book this, I just thank them for doing a campaign that is positive and uplifting and encouraging, rather than tearing down people who are already fighting for their lives and struggling to find joy and love in a harrowing experience. And just thank them for doing something that is, like I called it, the societal hug, even if I don't book it. But I did actually. And so this was an international print and commercial campaign. Again, the perfect storm coming together of my passion, vision, and purpose manifesting in this thing of, I'm in a magazine ad or on TV, and I'm saying the words, actually, Bald is Beautiful, and people are seeing that come to the screen. And I started doing speaking engagements a lot more to the people at Bristol Myers Squibb and at other events. And so I got to reach another wide audience again, through the power of technology as well, doing this pre-Zoom days, but like I spoke at an all-employee meeting. So there was like, in 600 cities across the world, people were watching me speak at their headquarters in New Jersey, I think it was, articulating this message about, transforming what they're doing is helping people survive. And I got to thank people for, dedicating their lives to developing these medications that help us get through things. And I'm not a big pharma kind of person even necessarily. And this particular chemical, in addition to all my other alternative medicine that I was doing, was part of what saved my life. And I got to meet the lab technicians who sit there looking down a microscope and say thank you to and they don't get that. They don't get thanked directly. They're these faceless, technicians and scientists trying to help people. And I met a lot of people in the pharmaceutical industry who were nurses and had been nurses for 20 years. And then they were at Bristol Myers Squibb for 20 years. And that says a lot to me about any company. But that was an amazing experience. And I got to do all these speaking and outreach work through this experience as well, through this ad campaign. And then got connected with this Kenneth Cole campaign, which is another beautiful, we all walk in different shoes. And there was a woman with albinism. There was a trans woman. There was this preacher who was like a rock and roll preacher. I forget his name, but he was like, Christianity, but in a punk way. I don't know how to, it was just an amazing array of people in this campaign. And so honored to be part of that. Yes, I got to keep the dress, which is awesome. And again, also, started, some of my work began as David, as Dr. Sutera mentioned, started also getting some recognition. This is Lily Tartikoff and Patrick Swayze's widow, the Lily Tartikoff Hope Award. She honored me with it one year, and so I got to speak to those people and my parents and my twin sister and Lily. And then I also got the Braveheart Courage Award and got to wear this exquisite Oliver Tolentino dress. Oh my God. And this 50-pound gorgeous gemstone award it's called the Braveheart Courage Award. And that was an extraordinary experience. And continuing that journey of reaching people and giving speeches and articulating these ideas that people can take home with them and, bring into their own experience or share with someone that maybe it'll stick in there and they know someone going through something and, oh, I saw this woman speak, and sharing, share that hope, that messages of hope. And attending events like the Revlon Run Walk, one of my favorite things I used to do every year in New York and LA, the bi-coastally. 50,000 people, such an extraordinary day of people coming together to celebrate each other and give each other love, and just amazing. As you can see, the smiles. And again, this woman is Erica. She's 19. She did not survive, unfortunately. But this again shows. I put this stuff out on the website. I didn't know who was going to reach. This woman found me. This young girl found me in a sea of 50-something thousand people at the end of the event, and she said, "You're the baldest beautiful woman." And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I am." And she said, she had been going through ovarian cancer from the age of 16. For 3 years, she's been going to my website and reading things, and now we're meeting each other in person. And I stayed in touch with her and her family until she passed away about 2 years after this photo was taken. But it just, again, I'll come back to this point later when we're talking, because I think it's going to come up. But the idea of if you're living your passion, vision, and purpose, and that's the fuel behind whatever it is you're doing, then in a sea of hearing no or rejection or being told, or running into obstacles and challenges to getting what it is you want to get done, if you stay as connected as you can to the passion, vision, and purpose of what you're doing and on that path, it will mitigate all of the challenges and obstacles that you will very likely encounter along the way. And so that's why those pillars are so important. And I have found them essential in pursuing this, because at the time, especially, there were maybe 3 or 4 references. I got called Sigourney, hey, Sigourney, or G.I. Jane, or Sinead 5 times a day walking on the streets of New York City, which is great because I love all those women. But there weren't that many pop culture references for women without hair. Men had some stuff going on, or they had, Telly Savalas already from the 70s, but Michael Jordan, Bruce Willis eventually shaved his head, Andre Agassi. So there were men in pop culture that had given permission to, when you start losing your hair, you can just shave it and it's considered sexy. But women did not have that same thing. It was either associated with illness or cancer or something, alternative, like Sinead, punk rock, or G.I. Jane, military. So it's just, it wasn't necessarily considered just plain old beautiful and normal. It still had a stigma to it for women. It's much different now, thankfully. But at the time, I was doing what I called, before the term representation was out there officially and in a more mainstream way, that's what I was doing. My idea was, if more people see a bald woman just living life, being happy, if she's a doctor, lawyer, model in a magazine, then it will destigmatize and help redefine what that can mean. So when someone is diagnosed with cancer, they can say, instead of, I'm going to be ugly without my hair, they can say, oh, I'll look like that woman on that TV show or in that movie or in that magazine. That's the real boiled down, oversimplified idea about bald is beautiful, is representation. When people can see themselves in these media avenues, it is empowering. It gives someone hope and encouragement. And as a 28-year-old going through it, like I said, everything out there kind of made me feel like shit. And I didn't see myself. Everyone looked older. They were all all the movies had women wearing scarves and gray pallid, about to die, and people would like, this is what I looked like when I went through cancer, as you could see. Like I didn't see that coming back at me as the message of what I'm supposed to be feeling and experiencing from cancer. So I was like, okay, there's got to be a way to change that, and that's what I've been doing. Got this little accolade as well, Revlon role model. I also met through my cancer community outreach. There's an organization called 46 Mamas, and they focus on pediatric cancer, which coincidentally and not irrationally, like they both are. September is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month and pediatric cancer. So it's kind of funny. Ovaries give birth to children and children cancer. So it kind of makes sense. They're both in the same month. But I met that's Sammy again. And her image, it's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken in my entire life with Sammy. She goes by Pear now, and she's still with us, thankfully. Graduated college, working, doing her thing, brain cancer. And Dorian, he unfortunately did not survive. But I did all these events with them, head shaving events where their mamas would get together and shave their heads to raise money and awareness for pediatric cancer and research and treatments and stuff. And I met so many beautiful women and their children, if they were still there. And I got to did some speaking engagements in Spain for teenagers called Lo que de verdad importa, what is really important. So I got to speak to young adolescents, teenagers about, again, what they can focus on in their life and what's important and how to infuse that into whatever it is they want to do in their lives, and see some children in the hospitals and share smiles and hugs. And again, get some media. So again, putting this out there in print so people can read this message, and the visual can draw them in, and then they can read about it. Same with this Hallmark card. Again, I did a stock photo shoot with my twin sister. You don't know where these things end up. And then someone, my brother's wife at the time said, "Hey, you're on a Hallmark card." Like, really? That's amazing. Another photo from that photo shoot ended up on this American Cancer Society sign. And biggest honor for this event, because it was my favorite thing to do for 20 years, or 15 years, this event. And I ended up on one of their posters, and that's Lucille. She is still with us, thankfully. And this is me at a protest, a demonstration. Significance of this that I put here is that it starts with one. And any idea you have, again, passion, vision, and purpose, fueling what it is, the messages that we are transmitting out into the world. You can't always quantify, you very rarely can quantify the impact that it might have on one person's life, but it just starts with one, and that's your voice. And when you put that out there through your passion, vision, and purpose, and hopefully fueled by also love and joy, that just has this ripple effect. And you may not be able to quantify it. It may not manifest in like, oh, I'm a success with, making lots of money and all that stuff. How you define success will be up to you. But it just takes one voice, and it just takes you to just start one step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, as they say. But that is my message about using fear to be your fuel, and using pain to turn into purpose, and trauma and tragedy can become triumphs instead. And the other three pillars that go along with pain, passion, vision, and purpose is compassion, empathy, and love. And if we put that all together, the world will just become a beautiful, wonderful place. And here I am. So we'll get to the marvelous part of my story. This is me in 2016 at Comic-Con LA, which I thought would be my pinnacle Marvel geek, childhood comic book reading geek, bucket list moment of meeting Stan Lee, which I did. And you can see how happy I am in that photo. I did not know that 2 years later, I was going to be sitting like this as Soren in a Marvel movie. So you could see the facial expression has not changed from 2 years ago, from 2 years prior. And I got to have this extraordinary experience with legacy effects and be an alien in a Marvel in the MCU. And this is a beauty shot of Soren. Most extraordinary experience. And once again, yes, that experience and having that platform led to having a lot of opportunities to speak in the press and the media to articulate this message of empowering ourselves to define our beauty and our wholeness on our own terms. And always smile. Baldur's Beautiful motto is always smile from the inside out. And that is the message that I continue to try and transmit through what I do. And in podcasts and in print and on the runway and on the red carpet and having fun at all these events. And the more recent, bigger thing that I got to do was Dungeons and Dragons, which was super rad. Again, I used to play on the sidewalk waiting for the school bus. Me and my nerd friends would play Dungeons and Dragons on the sidewalk waiting. So this is like insanely, nerdtastically fun. The funny thing is, also I wasn't allowed to take official photos. So I just surreptitiously took selfies of myself with the makeup. This is like in the makeup trailer, just in the bathroom. Like, okay, I'm just going to take some photos for myself. And a friend of mine put together these, I told him I was like, I want to create Dungeons and Dragons, like playing cards, like character cards, like they have from the game. So like he created these cards for me, which was really fun to play around with. And again, we'll probably talk about this in a different context later with the Q&A when we start Q&A, but this is a funny experience if I had to learn a whole new language, and it sounded kind of like German, Klingon, and Hebrew put together. This whole speech that I gave to a big crowd in the scene in the movie. And I had to learn this new language. I had to give this speech, and it's very powerful. It's a pivotal moment, supposedly. And then I went to see the movie with my agent, actually, and we were so excited. And we get to the movie, and it's like, like we're in the cave. So it's like, this is my scene. And it was literally, as soon as I finished saying, this is my scene, it was over, because they had made it into this flashback moment where Jean-René Page, I think is his name. He was talking about the moment as a voiceover flashback scene. So he was describing what was happening instead of me getting to give my speech. So you see me do this with my arms, and then it's over. But I know I shot that scene, and I know I gave that speech. But anyway, such is life in the acting world, cutting room floor. It happens. And then recently, what I've been doing of late, things have been a little bit slow in the industry, as many of you might be aware. And I started what I call in my acting life the fuck it fun footage phase, because things have just been so slow. And I also had a life detour of a different nature, having to take care of my sister back in New York. So I was back in New York for about a year, and the strike was half of that year, actually, the acting and writing strike. And so this coming back and trying to get back on my feet because of the pandemic. And then I was pretty much starting over, even though I had these pinnacle moments of two Marvel movies and Dungeons and Dragons, and I seemed to have some momentum going, but the pandemic just, and then the strike, and then life again, pause. So I've been shooting things that give me professional footage for stuff that I haven't booked studio kind of jobs on that I want to book. This is my Law and Order lawyer type Dick Wolf, crack the Dick Wolf code lawyer scene that I shot for myself, just for my reel and on my media materials. And then I did a grad student horror film as a pilot, because I just thought, hey, that'll be fun. And the guy's stuff looks great. So fuck it, fun footage, right? And then I did this dystopic military futuristic scene. And then the last thing I just shot 2 months ago is FBI agent. I got to show a little bit of a harder edge of myself as an FBI agent, again, cracking the Dick Wolf code type of scene. And that's, so I continue to do what I'm doing as an actorvist, and it does fuel everything I'm doing. And I'll tell you a little story about the Dick Wolf thing, which I love Law and Order. I've always been into detective shows and stuff like that and figuring things out. But Law and Order took a different space in my life when I was going through chemo, because it's a very dark tunnel, endless tunnel that we're in when we go through chemo. And because of syndication, Law and Order was on several times a day, several different channels. And the writing and the story and the acting is so good that for those little 1 hour pockets, I could dive into those worlds and be in a little less pain. So Law and Order episodes, and also ER actually, but we'll focus on Law and Order, became little tiny points of light in this long and dark, endless tunnel. And so they were actually everyone in that show, and was kind of along with me as part of my healing team of moving through these. It was like a 3-year journey that I had them as my resource to tap into. And Mariska Hargitay in particular became my North Star for starting Bald is Beautiful, because she is an actorvist as well. She doesn't probably call herself that, but she uses her platform through the show and outside of her acting work to make real change in the world. And when I was sort of doubting, like, oh, can I do this? She became my North Star, saying, yes, you can move on that path and make it. It's not a crazy dream to think that you can use acting and the visual media as a platform to articulate this bigger, more, I don't say more important, but this bigger message about hope and healing. And so that's why my pseudo obsession with Dick Wolf and Law and Order shows, is because it was part of the inspiration for me doing what I do currently, specifically Mariska Hargitay and SVU. And so I keep on trucking, and here we are. And I think that's it. Yes, Bald is Beautiful. And you can visit my website, baldisbeautiful.org. We're open 24/7, 365. And now we open it up for questions. Or David, did you want me to go straight to my...
Well, let's talk about just briefly how you got into acting. And then I really liked you explained to me your...
Let me take a breath, though. Oh my God, I was just talking for so long.
Take a breath. Here you go. So I'm very interested in how you prepare for your headshots. And you do, like, you storyboard it, and you do like a little, you don't just show up and say, hey, I'm going to wear this and that. Go ahead and explain that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I actually, for this headshot, I took some new headshots sort of fairly early on in the pandemic. Again, nothing was happening. And I was like, okay, I need new headshots anyway. So I waited for it was like the second year of the pandemic. So it wasn't, didn't have to wear a mask, or during that time, during the photo shoot, I felt okay in a space with someone not wearing a mask. And I worked with this marketing consultant to they have this process of, first they hone in on your entry points, what they call entry points. And those are the roles that you are more likely to be called in based on not just your look, but your essence of the kind of roles you might be called in for. And so then you identify those, and then you take headshots that embody those kinds of characters. But it's not just about, I think the mistake that a lot of actors make, too many actors make, is just going into a headshot shoot like, well, I need a shot in a blazer for the corporate thing, and I need a shot in like casual athletic wear for they focus on the wardrobe as the driving factor for what photo they're going to take. And this focuses more on the character and the story that we're telling with a photo, which is definitely my jam as a storyteller, but also, again, with Bald is Beautiful, that idea of I'm communicating a lot more. It's not at face value. It's also, there's something deeper coming from within me that is emanating out. And that's also should be the approach with a headshot. So I did a whole, it was like a month and a half, 2 months process of emotion work after I identified the entry points, emotion work. And then I created individual storyboards for each look. And I guess if you want me to share the screen, I can just...
Yes, please do. Share those. I think it'd be great.
I'll start with that. See, I did this work okay, is that up? Yep, there it is. So there's 5 different looks. So this is the, like, right here on the left, these are like character traits that are part of me, but that are also part of this character. So these are the inspiration characters that exist in movies and TV shows already, that are the goal, like the target, what I'm trying to embody. I gave her a name and a backstory. Her name is Enzi. She's a warrior, leader, space traveler, and so much more. And then these are the shows: Matrix, Star Trek Discovery, Altered Carbon, The Boys, The Hunger Games. So these are the inspirations. And then these are my explorations of wardrobe that I, had to go find to embody this look. And then you can see, so for example, that's all the work and the prep work that I did. The other thing I did before going to the shoot is I made up little lines of dialogue that I could have in my head little one-liners from a script of what this character might be saying in a scene, so that when the photographer's taking pictures, I'm bringing that storytelling up through my body, through my eyes, into these photos. And the photographer had never worked with anyone who did that. So he was super jazzed about it. And he actually started playing with me. So I had sent him these storyboards before the photo shoot. And then when I got there, he was excited as anything. And he started like giving me dialogue. So we were kind of, doing scenes together as he was taking photos, which was great. So for example, for this storyboard and that character, this is one of the two final headshots that came out of it. Was that headshot, which we could also crop a little bit, and this more zoomed in photo. And then we can go more quickly through these, but this is sort of the more earthy Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, leftovers type of character. Her name is Maggie, and she's a former rising star ad exec in an abusive relationship who killed her husband in self-defense. When his final abuse caused a miscarriage, she left the big city for the quiet small town where she built and runs a battered women's shelter. She's distrustful and fierce, and all these other characters. And then these are my looks. So I'm bringing all of this into the headshot that I ended up with from these two looks from that storyboard. This is my Dick Wolf board. Olivia, yes, named after Olivia Benson. But I'm not just a lawyer. I'm a former social worker who grew up, named Olivia, who grew up in the foster care system when I go to law school to become an ACLU type of activist lawyer, and so on and so on. And here's my, ironically and wonderfully, Kamala Harris is on my storyboard from 2021, as well as, of course, Olivia, even though she's a detective, but still, and Annalise Keating and other Law and Order Dick Wolf characters, Olivia Pope. And here's my looks of my different blazers and shirts and the character traits: authoritative, ambitious, compassionate, kind-hearted, stubborn, professional, intelligent, principled, all these things with dialogue in my head about what I'm saying. And these are the two final photo selections from that look. And then this is yes, I did do a G.I. Jane type of photo, headshot. She told me this consultant said, get dirty up a tank top. So I did. These are all the inspirations. And I named her Ripley, of course, after Sigourney Weaver in Alien. And she was orphaned when her town was decimated by fire. She had to survive on her own from an early age, et cetera, et cetera. Alien, Terminator, Mad Max. There's Charlize Theron. So these are the two photos. These are two of my favorite headshots I've ever taken in my life. And this green top was the photographer's. He threw it on me. He was so excited by the whole process. I got way more looks out of it than I paid for, because he was just, throw this on, let's try this. So it also can create some real energy on the set when you do a lot of this prep work in this way. And then the final look that was outside of the marketing consultant's original thing was just something that more resonates with who I am as a person, this healer, an empath. And so I had some reference photos for shows that and films that embody that kind of look. And so you can see the story. A former music biz exec whose cancer journey inspires her to leave corporate life behind and become an advocate for women's mind, body, spirit health. So that's really me. So I didn't have to work that hard to come up with things to say, but empathetic, sincere, warm, quirky, goofy. And I should also say Aisha Hines here is also one of my other North Stars for starting Bald is Beautiful, because she has never worn a wig. And as an actor, I was like, okay, I need to find a team to work with who also embraces me in what I am doing, and doesn't want to just throw me in wigs. Like, well, you need hair to be an actor. I don't think I do. I will say not as common for a white woman to have no hair, and it does create a preconceived idea of what that might mean a little bit more. It's more common for Black women to have hair that's a little closer cropped like this, but she still, as an actor, she's never worn a wig, and she plays the kind of roles that I want to do, that are she's a paramedic on 911 right now, but she was like a science tech. She's been all these just regular people roles, not anything niche, just like everyday woman roles without hair. And it was like, yeah, I want to be her. So she was also one of my other Bald is Beautiful North Stars as an actor, particularly. And then this is the looks that came from that. It's part of the storyboard is these sort of hippie, alternative-y. That's all from the headshots. And then I don't know if I can go straight into, if you could, this is the media tab on this. So I actually have new photos now. Took another set of photo shoots, did the same process though. So there's path kind of thing. Here's the kick-ass lawyer named Olivia. Sort of the post-apocalyptic, edgy vibe. This is also an edgy vibe. I kept this old one up because it's still one of my favorites. So it up. But this is the new or 2.0 version of that. And then this photo as well with the empath. And I have these two that are just kind of just different, and I leave them up on my page. And this is my media tab. So I don't know, David, if you want to, if you want to ask questions, or I can come back on.
Well, let's talk about this website, this Actor Access thing.
Actors Access, yes.
Yeah, this is. It seems like this is a pretty important site to be involved in if you want to be an actor. So could you talk about this and the value of it? And I know it's a paid site, so if you could talk a little bit about that, please.
I pay the annual fee, like it's on a monthly thing. It's an annual fee, and I did forget to look this up to confirm, because it's auto debit. So it just happens automatically now, but there's a site called showfax.com, which is part of Actors Access, or they're part of the same thing, but you subscribe to that. And then you can also download sides that might be available to without having to pay every time to download sides. So you sign up for that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you explain what sides are, just to make sure?
Sides are like, if there's a show is casting something and they have the list of like nurse or doctor, whatever the character's name is, you click on the sides is the script of like maybe 2 or 3 pages of a scene that you would be used to audition for that role. So if you get an audition either through a self-submission that I submit myself or through my reps, they're going to come through this site, most likely this and another site called Casting Networks, but that's more commercials. Actors Access is the breakdown services that most of the mainstream or even indie, it's like, the full spectrum of films and television shows and shorts and all that stuff that's happening is through Actors Access. And so when you get a breakdown, or you submit for something, or your agent submits you for something, when you get an audition invitation, you're going to have to get the sides, and they're either going to send them to you or you're going to find them on the Showfax site. And then you can download them so you can print them out and do the audition, but you don't have to pay for them because you're subscribing to the service. And I think it's like $80 a year or 76 or 80 something. It's not extraordinarily expensive. The more expensive part kind of comes when you're uploading, there's a $20 per photo to upload. And I think $20 per 1 minute for the videos that you upload. So that's where it gets a little more money. But again, this is foundational. You need this to submit yourself for work. It's just a central thing you need. I mean, there's Backstage Magazine, which is, again, more for if you're just starting and maybe you're not union. But there's tons of non-union stuff on here too. So I would just say, like, if you're going to pick one or two, it'd be Actors Access and Casting Networks, those two sites to submit yourself, or that your agents are going to want you to have to use anyway to submit you for work. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it did. Let's talk about getting representation. There's union, non-union, how you go about that process right there.
For me, again, when I started, the interwebs was a whole different, I was printing out physical headshots and I was doing mailings. Different places had, you could buy, like, for $200, you could buy labels that had the addresses of casting offices. Agents, managers and stuff. And I would do a mailing, with a cover letter, and I'm looking for representation. Or the other way is if you're doing shows or performances, or you created a web series, or you did this student film, and you send out emails. If you can get people's email addresses, they don't do snail mailing as much anymore. People, especially right now, post-pandemic, a lot of people aren't in offices anymore. They're working from home in terms of casting and agents and reps. So, but you used to just basically do some kind of outreach or mailing with announcements of shows that you're performing in or that you could be seen on television in, and with a cover letter of some sort pitching yourself, like this is who I am, this is what I do. You can look me up on IMDb Pro or on Actors Access, and they can see your profile and your marketing tools, and they can reach out if they want to try and work with you.
Okay, good.
The reel is the other. For these video clips are another thing that's important to have, and to get started. But you don't always have that. I just started doing student films and off Broadway plays, and when I was in New York, and I decided to come into LA because I just, at the time, there wasn't that much shooting. There wasn't as much happening in New York versus LA in terms of TV and film, mainstream TV and film. That's kind of changed as well a lot now, but still I wanted to be union before I came to LA. Union is a little bit stronger. I feel stronger in Los Angeles. In New York, there was just a lot more I could do non-union to build my resume and build stuff. Not the same here in LA. At least that was my feeling then. That was 2008, 2007, 2008. But yeah, then you just use those things to build your tools and build your media.
So casting agents and agents they go specifically to this website to look for new talent type of stuff. Is that correct?
I don't know if they do that. Like, again, this is where it gets a little tricky, because there are ways, like there's these places that put on showcases, like where you can pay a fee to be part of an agent showcase, and you do a scene. And they used to do them obviously in person, but now they happen on Zoom. And maybe they're both now again, but that can be hit or miss, depending on, like, Actors Connection is like a legit place in New York. They're based in New York, and I do a company called One on One or Next Level. Those are other places I would consider taking classes. They're not acting classes per se. They're cold reading and casting director workshops where you get to do a class with a casting director, for example. But those places also have agent showcases where you get to do a 2-minute scene, and you have 1 minute to sort of pitch yourself to these people. And then you have their email addresses, and you can do follow-up emails and say, that you'd love to work with them, and they'll tell you if they want to work with you. And it's a challenge, but also, and I've never used it, so I don't know much about it, but through Breakdown's Actors Access, there's a thing called Talent Link. And if you sign up for that, I guess it sends some sort of notification out to whoever subscribes that's on the agent or casting director side. And you are basically putting a notification out there to subscribers of this service that you're looking for representation. And I've actually heard positive things from people who have found good representation through the Talent Link part of Actors Access. So that's another way.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to open it to the students here, and then we have about 20 minutes left here. So let's talk about the different types of acting classes that you would recommend for aspiring actors.
Okay, I'm going to come back. Hi. The number 3 is so magical. There are 3 things that I think are essential for every actor to study and take classes in, if you haven't already come from a conservatory, which is obviously also another path. None of these things are guarantees for quote unquote success or becoming a working actor. That's all going to come down to a confluence of talent and right place, right time, luck, whatever is trending in the industry, all these things that you can't control. The only thing you control is the focus that you put in on becoming a truthful, authentic storyteller. And the kind of classes that I believe help with that are scene study classes, improv classes, and the third one, which is separate and together with audition technique classes. And I would say everyone should take an audition technique class. Auditioning, you have to act in your auditions, but there's techniques in auditioning specifically, because it is a separate beast under that umbrella of how to audition, because there are some of our most beloved actors are notoriously terrible at auditioning. And luckily for them, maybe they don't have to anymore. But audition technique, because that deals with things like if you get an audition for a scene and you're supposed to be running while talking to someone, there's like physicality involved in a scene. You're like, well, how do I show that when, especially now, you're not in person, you're like in a little 3x5 box. How do I show that I'm running and talking? It's like, please don't run in place, because all you're going to do is end up looking like a head that's bobbing up and down, and it just looks weird. For one example, so audition techniques will tell you how to work through certain things, how to create eye lines, because again, you're here. So how do you create, if I'm auditioning for a lawyer and I have a judge, I have the defendant, and I have the jury. So how do I, just through where I'm looking and scene analysis, create a courtroom environment with just where I'm looking in my eyes and where I'm directing my dialogue with the reader or not. So there's stuff like that for me, put me in my head. It used to put me in my head of when I would have all types of action cues in the script that would be like, well, how do I do all that when I'm just here? Because especially on self-tapes, you don't have a camera following you unless you have someone, you live with someone who's willing to do that with you or whatever. Because friend can come over, but most of the time they want to keep it simple and not have like a bunch of this background. Don't do this in your audition. Have a solid background. But the audition technique will tell you how to structure your acting storytelling work so that it communicates the environment and the story without you having to get in your head about doing, like, for the Marvel audition, actually, funny story. For the Marvel audition, there was no script. It was a description of a scene. It was like the scene that you see in the movie in Captain Marvel, where coming up it's a variation of that scene, but the instructions I got for the audition were, you're running up a hill, and just over the hill past is where the port is, where the ships come back and they bring in the soldiers home. So you're running up to this hill to look out into the port to see if your husband is returned, and you're scanning the crowd and you see him and you run to each other and embrace. And then he looks at you and he asks you to see the daughter. And then you summon your daughter over. And then you watch them hug and embrace. And then he stands up and looks at you and you assure him that everything is good. That's the description I got. No dialogue. You're not supposed to say anything. So I had to visually create this whole scene. No other information. And I had just started an audition technique class. And I did the first 3 weeks. And the first 3 weeks were the exact 3 lessons I needed for that audition, which was creating the environment. So I knew how to create the idea that I was looking far away at a hill and then watching him run towards me. The second one was about the physicality of how do I show someone running? How do I run towards someone and hug them and embrace them and kiss them without doing any of that? Because whether you're on a self-tape or not, if you're in the room, you don't touch casting directors. They don't want to be touched. Generally speaking, that's a rule. For a variety of reasons. But so you're not going to touch your reader. You're not going to hug and kiss your reader. You're not going to do it in the room or on the self-tape. But I had to create a way to convey that I am running and embracing my husband, my long away husband, and then see that he's asking to see the daughter, bring her over, wave her over, watch her, use my eyes to create watching her run. And then now he's hugging her down. So my eye line then goes down to watch them hug. And then he stands up and looks at me, and I come back to where I had put him to begin with. So again, so those 3 things about physicality, creating the environment, how to create movement with just my eyes, my eye line, and embracing and hugging without embracing and hugging. My first 3 lessons in a 12-week class. Marvel audition. Book that.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was such a thing as auditioning classes. That's great. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but
audition technique, yeah. The other scene study is very important because all of these things are acting gyms, and you need that. That's the gym. That's where you continue to build your muscles, your emotional muscles, your truth and authenticity muscles, your access to all different kinds of emotions, and putting yourself in different circumstances and being that person, being yourself as that person in those circumstances, not trying to put things on and wearing masks. People talk about acting as wearing masks, and it's really not. It's really just exploring all of the emotions that exist within us, all of our life experiences, and finding ways to connect into that story and not judging the characters that we're reading. And so scene study is important because, again, that's a consistent, every once a week. That's what I was doing, a once a week class where I would be assigned a scene partner, and we would work on a scene for 4 weeks minimum. Sometimes it would go longer because it wasn't cooked yet, you stay on that scene, you're still not, and you work on that for 4 consistent classes and just build up your acting muscles and keep them fresh and accessible. And improv, for me, everyone, not even an actor, everyone should take improv classes, everyone in life, because it's about saying yes, not judging yourself, and elevating the action. And I think those are lessons in life. But improv is terrifying. So dive into that, go into that direction, because it is terrifying. And it's without a net. And commercial auditions in particular love improv actors, because you have to be able to think on your feet. And so improv acting is just an essential thing to, again, get you into your body, so you're not overthinking and thinking about things, and being able to be kind of, easy on your feet. So those 3, scene study, improv, and audition technique, I would consider essential acting tools.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So why don't we go ahead and if you have any questions, anyone in the audience, you can come up here, or I can bring the microphone down there. And, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or whatever. Anyone want to ask a question? Okay, we have someone here. So go ahead and introduce yourself. And
I can't see you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. My name is Brian, and I'm interested in acting. And I wanted to ask specifically about all of the makeup and prosthetics that were involved in playing a Skrull, and what that was like in terms of sitting in the makeup chair, and what it was like just kind of moving around with all of that on.
Thank you for that question, because I'm never not totally geeked out about it for myself. It was so much fun. The process of just getting fit for it. First of all, it was like they did a whole face cast. So they put this green goop all over my face to, like, literally, it's silicone. So it felt like second skin, but they put this stuff and then little holes on my nostrils so I could breathe. And I am claustrophobic, so I was nervous that there would be a problem, but I could breathe, and it felt more like getting a mud mask treatment at a spa, which the guy said he's never heard anyone put it that way. So I did that, and they fitted me for teeth because there was prosthetic teeth, and then I went to an ophthalmologist. Actually, those are custom lenses for the full eyeball lens. I'd never worn contacts, so I was a little nervous about that too. But the technicians who were on set were amazing. But the makeup process, the first time I did it, because it was just head. So it was up to, like, it wasn't full body. So it was just my full head. And so I shaved down smooth so they could do that. And it was in several large pieces that they applied and then kind of, blended together, and then they painted. That process, the first time we did it, it took 2 hours. But again, I was having so much fun, and I was so dorked out and nerding out about everything that I was having fun. So it was not tedious to me at all. I was just taking it all in. I was watching what they were doing. I was asking questions. And I had 2 guys, Chris and Mike, Chris Nelson and Mike Mikash were my original 2 makeup artists who worked on me together. So it was like each of them, and they have worked together for years together. So it was like a ballet. Their choreographed dance of getting everything done was amazing. So the first time was like 2 hours. It felt amazing once it was on. It was glued on and in place. It felt like it was like second skin. So I didn't actually feel it. And the contact lenses, same thing. They were soft lenses. Now, if this were 20 years ago, contact lenses were plastic and hard. So I think it probably would have been a different story. But these were soft contact lenses. So it just, again, once they were in, I had to get hydrated frequently. So the people on the lens techs on the set were constantly like, with eye drops. Are you okay? Squirting me with water. And the teeth would come in and out. But it was a blast, and they were so gifted. So the first time 2 hours, but then each time then we got into a rhythm. And I think the fastest we ever got it done was like 45, 50 minutes. We had it down. And that would be the first thing I would do. I get on set. I didn't meet Ben Mendelsohn in this human form until we wrapped, until the last day of shooting 6 months later, because the first thing we do is come in and get into makeup. So I'd be walking around, even if I was just on set waiting to shoot something, I was in full makeup from like 5 a.m. until whenever. So I didn't actually meet anyone. So actually funny, one time I was on set before, I didn't have to go to makeup before lunch. So I just went and got lunch. Nobody knew who I was. Kind of funny. I was like incognito.
All right, great. Anyone else?
Did I answer the question? I think I did.
Yeah. Okay, great. And we have a question over here.
Yay.
Hi, my name's Carter. Awesome. Thank you so much. It's good to hear you. So tell me about your first experience being on set. Like, how do you know the rules? I mean, we do some, I've done student films and whatever, and I understand, the concepts and the words and whatever, but was it terrifying? Were you just like, you didn't know what to do or where to go? Or, once the camera started rolling?
Well, thankfully, that's what most good sets will have PAs. PAs are your lifeline. They tell you where to go. They're on the walkie-talkies all the time. They tell you, okay, we're going to need you on here. You're going to wait here. Usually they, when you first on set, you don't know what to do. Here's how I learned, actually. I started doing background work first because to get my union card, I just started doing any kind of work I could do in non-union, whatever, and I would do background work and hope to get a waiver. And I got all three of my waivers from a background job that two of them were upgrades that got Taft-Hartley, and one of them was because it was a specialty thing. I was playing a woman, Hare Krishna, and so I got a bump because even though I didn't shave my head for the role, technically they would have had to ask someone to shave their head for the role, so I got a bump for that. So I got my 3 waivers from doing background work. But the beauty of background work, which I love, is you can just watch everything that's going on and you learn. Every set is different. So there's no set rules about what to do or not do when it comes to like how to interact with people, because that you just got to read the room, and mostly you're there to do your job. So you try not to be too chatty Cathy, and because, you might distract someone, or if you're on or near the set and they're shooting, it could become a problem. And you also don't want to give your headshot to the director. There's just etiquette things that you kind of want to make sure you're respecting the environment, and people are there to get a job, and time is money, and so they're trying to do their work, and that includes the main actors. If you're not there as a main actor, actors there are trying to get the job done. So I wouldn't. This is again before social media, before digital cameras. I was started before digital cameras. No, there were maybe Nikon. There were some digital cameras, but they weren't part of your smartphone. This is before smartphones were ubiquitous the way they are. I think it might be a little more accepted that at some point you're going to want to take a selfie with the stars on set, but you got to find the right moment, because I think it is a little more common now. Back then, it was just not. You just don't do that. Now maybe a little more, because the actors themselves, the stars themselves are doing it too. But you just want to be respectful of the environment and the people who are trying to get stuff done, and focus on your work. Like if you got to be in the space, in the zone to do the work you're there to do, depending on the role you're playing. Need to be ready with the sides. Scripts can change a day of, so you could have gotten the scene and the sides for your character and your role 2 days before the shoot date. You're scheduled to do the shoot. And you get on scene, and there's there's yellow pages, blue pages, pink pages. They're all different colors. You get a new set of pages with some dialogue changes. You got to make sure you read through that, make sure if something's changed for you. If you have any questions, ask the PA to ask the second AD or the first AD or the director. If you have any questions, you're not sure about something. And then you also just kind of pay attention on the set to how every director is different. They operate differently. Some directors don't want to be spoken to. It's like so you just got to kind of read the vibe of the room to see like what kind of interaction they want. Do they want you to just, do what's on the thing? Do they want you to just get in, get out? Do they play? Can you improvise? You got to just sort of, see what the language is once you're on set. Pay attention. Focus and pay attention. When I'm on set, I'm not like on my phone looking at the internet, checking my Facebook page. Like when I'm on set, I'm taking in everything that's happening. I'm trying to learn everybody's name too, because that's important. I don't want ever to be seen or see other people as just little cogs in a machine. So, and everyone there is working really hard. So I want to make sure everyone feels appreciated. And so I give everyone their props and respect. But take it all in, take advantage of being on a set and learn. So that's what I do when I'm on a set. And yes, there are times when, yes, you're going to be in your trailer or your thing for 5 hours before you do anything. And sure, you can chill out and relax and, do whatever you want on your computer and your phone, whatever. But when you're on the set, I would say, for me, I always find it better to, take in the environment and be present with what's happening. Because also something might happen in a scene with a different actor in a different moment that's preceding your scene that can tell you, oh, that looks like they're going in this different vibe for the scene. So that might inform what you do in the scene. And you can always ask the director, like, I noticed this is happening, is that what you want? They'll put you on your mark. You'll do all. There's so many hands and moving parts that are telling you what to do. So you don't have to actually think too much. Even with student films, I've found usually maybe they're like really good schools, USC out here and NYU. They have the best gear, the best equipment, and really high-end stuff. Student films are, I've been on some student films that were more well-run than a professional shoot. Maybe students are just more eager to get it right and so thankful for the actors to be there. So maybe that's part of it, is that they show that kind of respect. But I've been on some other professional shoots that were like, the director didn't have a shot list and it was a nighttime shoot. And so there was no shot list, and therefore they set up all the gear that would be in the shot. So if it wasn't for like the cinematographer on that shoot who said, if we want to shoot this in this order, we should make sure the gear is all set up at the other end of the street. So if we're shooting in that direction, we're not shooting towards the gear sitting there in the middle of the street. But that was because the director didn't put together a shot list. So it's like, wow, that's amazing. Then you learn about like, wow, that was a director thing. It's one of the things I've learned a lot about too, which you may find interesting. Sometimes you watch things and you're like, that wasn't, maybe you didn't like it. And you're like, was that an actor choice or director choice? Because I've had to do things where I'm fulfilling what the director asked me to do, but it's not organic to me as an actor, but I'm like, but that's what the director wants. So I'm fulfilling their vision. And then you see the final result. It's like, yeah, I would have made a different choice, but I was giving the director what they asked for. So that's an interesting thing when I watch things now. I'm like, was that an actor choice or a director choice? What was that? I hope that answered your question. Carter.
Hi, my name's Sam, and I had a question about, so like in pop culture, there'll be representation and things like that. Have you ever thought like a character, while they might not be going through the same thing that you're going through, you still really relate to them and almost feel like there's a metaphor there that you could really relate to?
Well, that's often part of the work, is finding that in any character, even if it's a character that's like, I've never been an axe murderer, but if I have to play an axe murderer, I have to find what it is about that person that they feel compelled to kill someone or whatever. That was just such a weird random reference. I'm sorry. But so far removed from your personality and your life experience. But what kind of aspects of that might I find that I can relate to? Have I ever been feeling really in a state of despair and rage? Have I ever felt like hitting something or someone, like, and summoning those emotions from some other part of my life experience? I think there's ways to do it. And I think I said something about that earlier too, is it's important not to judge the characters. So if you're playing, I've actually gotten quite lucky in the sense of, with this look, I was afraid I would have to play some neo-Nazis, which I thankfully have never had to do yet. I don't know what I would do if I had to, because it's very not me. And certain language and words that I've actually never used in my life, and I don't want to. I actually have a visceral like bleh so how would I find that? I don't know, but I would have to. And it would have to be part of like I think of the movie American History X, which Ed Norton, I don't know if you ever saw that movie. You should see it. It's an extraordinarily powerful movie. But when I look at the overall message of the movie and what it's saying, then if I had to be one of the neo-Nazis or racist people saying some terrible things, if I'm doing that within the context of a story that that the message I can get behind is not just gratuitous language and behavior. I could probably find that kind of thing within myself, but most of it is about being truthful and authentic and not judging the character. And we're all humans, so we all have different motivations for what we're doing or different causes. And if it requires research, like for an axe murder, I'll go back to that. I guess I would do some research about, psychological stories and reports and articles about, that have been done when examining what makes an axe murderer, and try to, a lot of research goes into researching roles that I'm not a brain surgeon. If I had to play a brain surgeon, I would look up, what is it like? Maybe I would do research. I'd definitely learn a lot of medical terminology. There's a lot of roles with jargon, technical jargon, medical jargon, legal jargon. So you have to learn that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of research too. And try to reach out to different resources to find out if it's something really different than who you are, or who you see yourself as. There's as human beings, we have shared humanity, and there's always something you can find in an emotional realm, a psychological realm, or something you can dig into from within yourself, find that, and have that become part of the fuel that is underpinning the story you're telling through that character. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, we just have a few more minutes. Does anyone have a question back here, over there, anywhere? Okay, great. We have one. Another student question. In my steps today.
Hi, my name is Bailey. I want to be an actor as well as a director.
Bailey.
But say if you have like a dream role as an actor, like say you want to be in like in a Star Wars film.
Yes, yes, please.
Me too. But say if you want to look like your agent's looking for any kind of acting opportunity, but you want to have that kind of role too. Do you tell them to look out for those things as well as other acting opportunities?
Yeah, the relationship with your reps is very important. Honestly, secretly, I'm struggling with mine right now. Communication is not where I like it, but honestly, you want to be able to have communication and speak on strategy for how you want to be pitched and marketed. And most agents don't do like pitching per se. They submit you for roles, they get on the breakdowns, and it's they're clicking buttons and they're sending things, and they might make a call or two. Managers sometimes do more of the pitching if you have a manager separately. And that's a whole other conversation. But you definitely want to make sure that if you're working with a rep, that they are in alignment with who you think you are. They might have a different idea, actually, of like, I don't think you're bookable in this way, or I think your materials don't actually give me the tools I need to pitch you for that kind of role. So maybe take some new headshots, or get something that looks like this or that, or shoot some footage that, looks like the kind of thing you're going for. So hopefully there's a synergy and a communication with your reps that you would definitely be having those conversations. When I was speaking to my rep before we signed to work with each other, I actually include that in my conversation. I say, these are my goals and these are my targets, and here's why. I very often share the story I have in the past over the years when I've been looking for representation. I've been between reps and looking for people. I've shared the story about why Law and Order and Dick Wolf is important to me personally. So it's not just, so they don't just see like, oh yeah, every actor would love to be on an episodic like that, of course. So I make sure that they understand it's as an actor that's important, but part of what I feel like it's good to know, like I have a personal attachment to it for different reasons. And also I have these other things to come to bear. I've been doing Bald is Beautiful for, since 2002. So what is that, 20 something years now? I have a brand, for me, especially it becomes a conversation because the question about wearing wigs is going to come up. And I say, well, you'd have to give me a good reason. You can't just say, well, you're a lawyer, so you need hair. It's like, no, actually, not true. And so for me, because I have a unique look and an approach to what it is, I definitely it has to be a part of the conversation of someone who's willing to see me that way and take me as I am and work within that. And funny enough, two reps ago, I was working with a different team. And when I had this interview and she said to me, like, I don't think you need to, like, I love your look. And you have this brand that you've been building for 15 years at the time. the first acting job she had for me was wearing a wig, but you're taking it off in the scene. But she said, okay, don't read the scene first, then call me back. And it was a comedy. It was the Detour, the scene I ended up doing for the Detour, which I booked, but like 2 months after signing with them, which was great. But it had a wig on it. She said, read the scene first and then call me back. And it was hilarious. And I was like, yes, okay, I'm going to do this. So I try to stay open when it comes to that question, but I couldn't be with a rep who was just like, put on a wig. It's like, well, you saw my headshots. You all saw my headshots. That's a whole different marketing question. Okay, wigs, long hair, short hair, what color, what style? Marketing myself as a woman with hair is a whole other endeavor. And that's not what I'm doing. So I would have to be with someone who understands that and is willing to work with me. And thankfully, at this point, I do have some credits that, hopefully can, I don't want to say justify is not the right word, but validate what I'm doing to the degree that someone is like. And I think there are a lot more bald women with shaved heads on TV shows, and it's a little more common now than it was when I first started. So it's not so outlandish now as it was when I first started. So communication, very important. Always articulate what your goals are. And if they know what they're doing, or if you feel confident that they know what they're doing, they're going to tell you, I don't think you're going to get called in for that. That's not what I'm reading from you. It's not what I'm getting from your pictures. Let's try to take some pictures that go in that direction more. They'll be your guide in that sense. So very important communication.
My name is Max.
Hi, Max.
You had spoke about improv earlier, and I was wondering, do you find it more fun to like be spontaneous when you're acting than, I guess, like following then on script? Like, not saying that you do something different, but just like getting impulse in the moment type of thing, and it's like, oh, I'd like to do this. You know what I'm saying?
I do. There's different rules for like drama and comedies when you're doing like, let's just keep it about television for the time being. Film is a little bit different because it's a different process. Making a film can take months, sometimes years to get a film made. But like comedy writers are often much more, they want you to be word perfect. It depends on the show. Curb Your Enthusiasm is all improv. So, it depends on the show and the writer that you're dealing with and how open they are. I don't know if you're talking about on set or in the audition process, but on set, again, you might want to see the vibe, or if if the show has been on for a while, you probably can tell, or you might know, you can read stuff to see if actors have improvised on those things before. Sometimes it happens accidentally because organically, based on the writing or whatever's happening, that's just what comes out. Like it might be a happy accident. And then if the director likes it, or the writer's on set and they like it, they might say, yeah, let's go with it. Generally, I endeavor to be as close or word perfect as I can. And until I'm given that sort of clue that improv or variation, paraphrasing in an audition, if you go up on one word, but everything else is organic and authentic about the audition, I wouldn't throw away an audition because, I said one word different. They don't care about that, because if you go in your head about going up on a word, they're going to see that in your eyes on the audition tape. They're going to see that on your eyes on set if you're in your head about getting the word wrong. So I spend a lot of time and effort in my prep process before I tape an audition or when I'm on set, of making sure that the words are so organic and natural to me that I'm, even if I do a variation by accident, it's going to be what the intention of the words are. And again, the director will write the ship if they feel that they're like, no, we really need you to say that word or emphasize that, then they'll give you that direction. So me personally, like, improv is still terrifying, which is why I need to do it more. Probably I need to get back into it. It's been a while, but I feel more safe and comfortable knowing the lines, and then then I'm not thinking, knowing the lines enough that I'm not thinking about them anymore. They're just natural, like they're conversational. And then if I go outside of it, I'm not going to feel tripped up because I'm so grounded in the work that it doesn't feel like I'm improvising. It just feels like I'm thinking and acting as that person, as that character. That's the other part. Sorry about it going a little long, but like in the audition and or on the scene, if we've done the prep work, we've done the homework, we've done the research, we've done the emotional preparation and the line preparation, that's, I don't want to say secondary, but it's like all of that has to be done. If you're doing something and thinking as the character, then it's not going to look wrong. Like I just did an audition last week that it was like 5 pages. It was actually on the edge of too many pages that they're not supposed to ask us to do, but it was like, I'll do it. But I sort of jumbled a line, but I was in character. And as human beings, we're not line perfect. You go back if you watch the recording of this speech and you'll see we're not line perfect. We forget or we fumble around or. So if we're doing whatever we're doing as the character, it's going to come off as authentic anyway. And then if the director or the writer is insistent on word perfection, then you just do that. I don't have more fun one or the other, except like I said, I think I'm a Capricorn perfectionist. I don't know. So I think being word perfect is more what I naturally am inclined to do anyway, just because I'm a perfectionist.
Okay, does anyone else have a question before we adjourn for the evening? This is your last call. Going once? Going twice? All right. So, Sharon, is there anything you'd like to, like some parting advice? I know we talked about, rejection and then, like what you do when you're not acting, because it's hard making a living as an actor. So you can talk about that and then we can finish.
Yeah. I am, well, funny, this is a perfect segue. I am a professional word nerd. I am a copy editor, proofreader. So my perfectionism actually serves me quite well. I do it compulsively and I get to be paid to do it. But I started with a temp agency and I've actually had a temp job for the last 10 years with Lionsgate, proofreading like DVD and Blu-ray, everything that's printed on a DVD or a Blu-ray package you might see in a store or a poster, with billing blocks, little legal lines on logos, writing a synopsis, like a summary of what the film is about, all that stuff. I get to do that every day. And my supervisor happens to be one of the best human beings on the planet. And he's also a musician. So in terms of work-life balance, he's very compassionate when the other 3 other people in the team and all of us are, we have other interests, not in like anyway, it's hard to explain, but we're musicians and artists. And so whenever anyone is like, hey, I have a studio session, I'm going to play trumpet on this thing. One of the other guys, he plays trumpet. And he's like, I booked this studio and I'm going to record this thing. So I was going to, start late today. And it was like, cool. It was like, we all kind of back each other up. And so we have an amazing team and I got very lucky. Most people in the acting business end up in the service industry on some level, cater waitering, as we call it, or working in a bar or restaurant, jobs that have a little more flexibility in the schedule. And hopefully if you're in a town like Los Angeles, hopefully there are places, those places are probably more used to having actors on their staff that have to be flexible. I've heard that Trader Joe's is kind of amazing to work for in terms of that kind of thing.
That's true, actually. I've heard that. They treat their employees very well. Yes.
They treat them well, but they also they are flexible. Like they work with actors who, I've heard that they're good to people who need some flexibility for whatever reason. But yeah, so I just happen to be for the last 10 years, I've been extremely fortunate to have this proofreader job that is, that pays well enough for me to like not have to worry about rent and food, and has the flexibility when I have auditions or when I book something and I have a shoot day. I just make sure that my work is done, or that I give my colleagues, like, here are the things I'm working on. So if this comes up, you have all the backup materials to pick it up, and then we cover for each other. So hopefully you'll end up in an environment like that that's very supportive and, and then it's something that's not terribly taxing and draining of your energy, because it is hard. It is hard to have a job that is not flexible or is very physically draining, that it's hard to, because acting is not necessarily not physically, it's a physical thing too. So you need to find ways. The other thing that you and I talked about, Dr., was the importance of living life. Because the richer your life is, travel, hang out with friends, have new experiences, the richer your life is, the more rich